Hey you guys, how you doing? Happy Monday. I wanted to go over some builds that I have stolen slash come up with over the last couple days. So I streamed my plan for leagues yesterday on YouTube, and I had some interesting conversations with some people that were doing it with me. So I wanted to go over some of the things that I went over and my thoughts on my build, because honestly, a few things have changed with my thought process here, so I wanted to go over what I'm thinking ultimately endgame. But starting with my early game build, I saw this interesting build on Reddit that I wanted to try for the Varlamore area, because we get the dual tech paddles after Echo and Moxliotl, and I wanted to kind of factor that into my early game builds. So this is what I have for that so far. This is an 8-point build. Should be pretty easy to get, right out of the gate. So we get the 50% chance to regenerate runes, obviously. We get the minimum hit when attacking with a melee weapon increased by 3, and then another 3 for every tile between me and the target. We're going to take each melee attack with a heavy weapon, since the tech battles are a heavy weapon. We're going to get a blind bag attack. Melee range is doubled while using two-handed weapons. I just threw that in there because why not? I can always take this off and make it 7. We get another 15% accuracy in all combat. We get 35% in all combat styles again, for a total of, I believe it's now, it's around here somewhere, 50%. Then we get another percent of melee damage, and then for each unique heavy weapon in my inventory, I'm going to get a blind bag trigger increase up to 2% for a maximum of 10. So we're going to get, I think, about 25% if I have 5 unique heavy weapons, which shouldn't be too hard to do. We're going to get the Arkan blade, we're going to get the tech paddles, obviously, we're going to get the glacial tomatlis probably, and we're going to get a few things, probably the boppers, the makwa wheedles, and probably another one, maybe the spear. I don't know if that's considered a melee weapon or anything, but if it is, that's cool. But there's a lot of other options. We could always do like a scimitar or something. So I thought this would be a cool first build. So I'm going to put the link to all these in the description if you're curious about where I'm going with this. So mainly what I wanted to talk about is how my mind has slightly changed up for what I want to do for the end game. So the last couple of videos on stream, I was talking about how I wanted to do a crossbow with Echo build with a shield, in which I would take Asgarnia, Karen, and Desert to get full fortified Missouri, the Twisted Buckler, and the Zenyte crossbow. I thought that would be a really good combo, and I did do a DPS calc on that, and it ended up being like 494, I think, with all the stuff that I was gonna get, provided the echo hits and whatnot went off. But after stream, I kind of was talking to people, and they were saying that there's a few options that I could do, and Kandarin came up quite a bit, unfortunately, because Kandarin's not my favorite area. There's not really a lot to do there, in my opinion. But I have been thinking about it, so I came up with a bunch of other builds that I wanted to talk about here. I think I have 6 that, again, I'll put all the links to in the description. But starting off with my mid-game build, this is a 25-point build that I think is perfectly reasonable to attain. Like I said, I'm taking Asgarnia, so I'm going to have Cerberus. So ultimately, I'm probably going to be speccing into this the special attack branch here. But we can kind of discount these for now, because I'm probably going to get my first range weapon at some point before this. So this build is assuming that I have Hespori for my Echo. If I don't, then I'm probably going to do like a Sunlight crossbow, or maybe like a Moonlight crossbow if I can pull it off, or whatever the upgraded bolts are for that with Hunter. But we're going to get the range, or the regenerate ammo. We get the range echo chance at 25%, and then while the bow is equipped, ranged echoes never miss. I think that'll be nice. A 5% defense boost, which is kind of just a filler to get to the 5% chance per attack of any style to roll max accuracy, and it's increased by 5 for every tile distance. I mean, that obviously just synergizes nicely with both things I have for melee here, and range, of course. And then we get another range damage. We get bows attack 1 tick faster, so the Hespori bow, assuming that it has a 3-tick option, will go down to 2 ticks, which I think will be really good. And then we get the 1% range damage twice, and then we get the 2 bows, which increases our minimum and maximum hit by 15%, or by 1, capping at 15%. So This is if I take Karen. Like I said, I'm kind of on the fence about Karen now after the conversations I had yesterday. So if I end up not taking Karen, I'll probably just go into a hunter's crossbow build with the Moonlight Antelope bolts, because I can just rush 70 hunter pretty easily, I think. So, or 72, whatever level it is. So we get 35% accuracy in all combat styles. I think will be really nice. 1% more range damage. Crossbows are 2 ticks slower, but do 70% more damage, more range damage, and then the 2 crossbows, which is crossbows always max hit and always roll accuracy twice. This is another 25-point build that I could easily spec into if I end up not taking Karen. And I think this will be a nice, just dual combat style, kind of hybrid mid-game build before, like, while I'm trying to get my endgame stuff going. Sorry, I'll move this down a little bit. So this is what we're looking at here. And then if I end up having some extra points because I'm, you know, farther into the areas than I anticipated, you know, I can always take this 30% regeneration chance. I can take another, ranged echoes can trigger additional time. I could do a few things here. I mean, there's a lot of options. You know, I can add some more accuracy to get to 80%. Or I believe we're at 115% accuracy now, so I actually don't really need this, but I definitely could use some more regenerate. So, you know, I could find a way to do that probably. You know, we got this over here. There's a 5% chance here. That puts us at 85. You know, there's another 5 and 5 here. So this is 29 with a 95% chance. This is just, you know, a fine mid-game build, I think. You know, this will get me where I need to go. You know, with the dagger that I'm going to get from Cerberus, I can easily, you know, spec into these specs here. You know, whenever you deal damage with a melee weapon, I get 2% spec, and then that factors in for like the Arkan blade too. If I got dragon claws, well, I actually wouldn't get dragon claws, but if I got, you know, there's a few avenues I can take here. You know, we get extra melee damage, melee weapons under 1 kilogram attack 1 tick faster, so the dagger from Cerberus will be 2 tick. Special attacks are 20% chance to not consume energy, so we're kind of just doing a hybrid spec plus range build for the hybrid setup. I think this will be a good mid-game kind of thing, like I said. So this will just carry me through until I start getting my endgame stuff, and then I can respec again into what will eventually be my final build. So this is a build that I was talking about with people on stream. This is a dual, the KBD crossbow with ice element build, which I think is going to be pretty insane. I think we did the DPS calc on this, and it was like 500 or like 490 DPS. It was insane, but that also implied that I got all 4 ranged echo hits. I think the max hit without that was 209, which is still insane. So like every hit we're hitting 209 minimum, because it max hits all the time. We have double accuracy roll for crossbows, and we have some number of accuracy increase. I'm trying to find it on the side here. 130% accuracy in all styles. So this will be really good for pretty much anything. You know, I can use this on bosses who aren't even weak to range. So I think this will be a really nice build. You know, we take all the water ones because the KBD crossbow does the ice, right? It does the ice spell whenever you shoot that freezes. So, you know, we're going to go into the Mage. Whenever we regenerate water runes, doesn't really do anything for us. But, you know, I actually could probably go this way. I mean, this costs a lot more, but it actually only costs 2 more. This might be better, actually. So we get the 5% chance to regenerate, another 5 defense boost, a 35% accuracy in all styles, which brings us to... what does it bring us to? 180%, which is massive. And 15% more, another 15 more chance to regenerate. And then we get healing on demonic pacts overheals you plus 30, which I'm not sure how useful that's going to be. But, you know, it's there because I think I have to take it if I want to take the water avenue here. And then we get another magic damage. Water spells deal increased damage the higher health percentage you have, which is plus 20 at 100%. So my goal here is to do Onyx bolts. Onyx enchanted bolts with the crossbow, and then that will proc on a 200, so it'll deal 25% more damage. So it'll hit up to 250, and then it'll heal 20% of that, so it'll heal me up to 50 HP, which is going to be insane. So I don't think we're going to be below 100 health very often. We get another magic damage, and then we get the water spells bounce back to you, healing you for 60% of the damage dealt. So every time we're firing, even if the Onyx Bolt doesn't proc, we're still getting 60% of that damage back as healing. So we could even spec into Dragon Bolts, you know, Ruby Dragon Bolts for that extra DPS. I think that might actually pay off nicely. So I might consider that. And of course, we have to take the ice spells now count as water spells because it won't work if it doesn't. We obviously took all the crossbow perks. This is a 37-point build, so there's a few tasks in all these areas that I didn't, you know, really feel like doing, or I might not do, like the Jad task in Karamja. Like, I'm probably not going to do the 6 Jad one because, like, no, unless this build is just so busted that I don't even have to care. So we took obviously all the crossbow stuff. You know, range strength is increased for every 10 hit points difference. I only took this in case I had some overheal. I don't think we're going to very much, so I could always take this off and make this a 30-point build or 36-point build. We get the accuracy, we get the regenerate, we have both crossbow perks, we have a 5% chance to fire a ranged echo whenever I regenerate ammo, which will be 100% of the time. So we'll have a 10% chance there, plus another 15% chance normally, and then of course we have the ranged echoes going off as well. So this will be a really nice range ice build, which I think will be a lot of fun. We did take some melee ones just for the hell of it. We took this minimum hit increase by 3, melee weapons under 1 kilogram trigger an additional time. I really only took these to take advantage of these 3, the accuracy boosters. I could always take this off and we'd have another 4 to 5 up to 8 points to play with, but I just took these to get this extra accuracy. I think the accuracy is going to help us a lot when we're doing bosses that aren't weak to range, so like Awaken Vardorvis, you know, Awaken Whisperer. I think this will be really helpful for those. But that's one of the builds that we talked about in stream. This was my main build that I was going to do at first when I was talking about it. So this is a crossbow build, which is going to focus on the Zenyte crossbow, which I would get from God Wars dungeon. This would be Karen, Asgarnia, and Desert to get obviously all the tank armor, to get the best in slot shield for range. And then I take all these echo items to deal that extra damage back. I don't think the DPS calculator accounts for this, but I think the DPS for this was like 480 something if I hit a perfect hit, and I think it was like 204 or something without it. So this way I would get Rigor if I don't take Grimoire, because I'm not planning on taking Grimoire. And then I get all this thorn stuff too, because I will be using it offhand, of course, because I'm using a crossbow. I did a little bit of a spec regen here just for fun. You know, this is only a 37-point build as well, so we could add a few things to this if I end up going for all 40 points. But the tasks for KoAsDe are like high-key really annoying, so I don't know if I'm going to do all that. The tasks for KoAsDe alone are making me not want to take KoAsDe. Like, the tasks to get more points for this are just like, I think it's like 150 shamans, which isn't going to be that hard, but it's like really annoying. Whereas the Kandarin ones are so easy. It's like equip an occult necklace, equip a trident or something. Like, it's just they're super easy. I don't know if I have the page up right now, but oh, I do. Let's see. Yeah, we have let's pull Kandarin here. Kandarin defeated demonic gorilla, a mithril dragon, kraken 50 times, trident, Zenyte jewelry, abyssal tentacle, and occult necklace. Like, those are so easy comparatively. And then if we pull up KoAsDe, it's like open a grubby chest, defeat the lizard shamans, which is fine, 1 Skatiza, which is fine, 25 chambers of Zarek is fine, dragon hunter lance, whatever. Radiant oathplate is crazy. Why would I want to do this, you know? So probably that's why I'm kind of on the fence. But Kandarin doesn't really produce much for me either. The only difference is I get more I can recoup some of the lost range strength from the Twisted Buckler by getting a Zenyte necklace. That's really the only big reason to take it, is because I can kind of recoup some of that loss, and I can respec into Mage if I really feel like it. You know, I could always do Virtus with the Trident, or with the Fork and the Devil's Element. You know, I could always take that route if I wanted to. But this is what is ultimately going to be my build if I decide to do the track that I was gonna do. Like I say, KoAsDe, I'm not really sure anymore. You know, the only real thing I need from KoAsDe is the prayers and the shield. But I'm gonna get Royal Titan's prayers, and that doesn't reduce DPS by that much. And yeah, it's just I'm on the fence about it now. Next up, we have this obligatory fork and devil's element build that I made for a friend if they were interested in playing. So this is really just element maxing. You know, we're just taking everything we can. For elements, we're adding on some regeneration chance, some defense levels, some accuracy, and regenerate chance. So we have 115% chance to regenerate runes. We have 130% accuracy in all combat styles. And then we're taking advantage of all the main elemental perks. You know, this is obviously like a Kandarin build if you were gonna do the trident. So, you know, if this is up your alley, you know, go for it. I'm probably not gonna be doing mage for my main this time around, which is whatever. But yeah, this is an option for sure. I'm sure you've seen builds like this already, so I'm not gonna go super far into it. This was a kind of an interesting one I was playing with. This was a one-hand melee spec build that I was just kind of cooking up last night. This will be a thorns, like a shield with spec weapon type thing. So you would equip a shield and then also a spec weapon, and it would just kind of, you would just kind of dumping specs. You know, we have a few really nice options here. This is only 35 points as well. We have a 50% chance to regenerate, obviously. We took a few of the range ones just so we could take advantage of these combat ones. We have 35% accuracy and then 5 strength because we're using an offhand because we'll be using a shield. We have 130% total accuracy. We have 50% chance to regenerate, which doesn't really matter for us. But then we get into the melee stuff. We obviously have the spec build going on. So every time we do a melee attack, we're going to restore 2 spec, and then we're going to have a lower attack speed because we're using a light weapon, ideally. You know, we're going to probably be using cerberus dagger, maybe a late game one-handed spec weapon. You know, I haven't really thought about the areas for this one yet. This was just a kind of a cool thing I built, you know, while I was just playing around with the system. So, you know, if you want to take a deeper look at this, I'm obviously going to put them all in the link in the description. So this one was a shadow build with a crossbow or tbow addition. So this is really just focusing on a powered staff build, because obviously there's a few good things here that are going to make the shadow kind of pop off here. I did the DPS on this and it was like 31 or something, which is not far off of what the DPS would be for the crossbow builds I was doing, because the attack is going to be faster. It's a 2-tick shadow, which is going to be pretty insane. And yeah, I don't know why I have this actually. Attack rate with combat spells on a spellbook is sped up by 2 ticks. I don't really need that. So this is a 36 point build. This is taking advantage of all the powered staff ones. Whenever you regenerate charges from a powered staff, you regenerate 1 air rune. This goes for all runes, so it takes advantage of all the regeneration perks. So we get a 15% chance to restore a prayer point per rune. We get 1 HP healed per rune. We get 1 max hit per rune, and then a boost to defense for every rune we recover, which we'll recover every time. Because we have a 95% chance to regenerate, but we could easily bump that up to 100 just by, you know, moving some stuff around here. And then we took the crossbow perk. I did not take the accuracy perk because the crossbow is not really the main thing here. It's more so the powered staves. So like you could probably figure out, let's see, where can we find some regeneration? Because there's definitely more that we could take. There's definitely something that we can do here. There's one over here we could probably try to get to. I mean, these aren't like super useful. I guess the water rune thing, this is kind of useful. This is 40 points though. So, you know, if we end up getting 40 points, great. You know, but 95% is not bad. That's basically 100. You know, if I could find another way to get it, you know, I would, but that's not going to do anything. Whoops. So yeah, this was just a crossbow build. You could retool this into tbow if you wanted to, just by, you know, coming down here, grabbing all this. This is only 34 points, and then you can grab this and some more accuracy. That's 36. You know, that's a pretty good, you know, mega rare build, if you will. You know, if you wanted to just like get your 2 mega rares and call it a day and do it this way, this would be a great way to do it. You know, you could do desert, you could do Karen for the full ancestral, you could do desert for a range switch to get Virtus, and then, you know, Mage. Kind of a lot of options here. And then finally, we have, what is this one? This is a endgame two-hand weapon build for Asgarnia, Fremennik, and Mauritania. So this is basically just your classic blind bag build. We added in some powered staff stuff just for the heck of it. This is a 40-point build. This is really more so if you ended up getting the Eye of Iag, or you just wanted another way to get some extra DPS from a style that wasn't melee. You know, you could always, you know, turn all of this off and, you know, put some points somewhere else. You know, I just had it like this for in case, you know, you wanted a hybrid. There's a few range things down here as well, you know, mostly taking advantage of the accuracy and, you know, some of these attack style ones. So, you know, you get the, you get thrown weapons, you get each of the range ones just in case you wanted to do a tribrid or just take advantage of some other combat styles. That way you're not locked into doing only melee. You know, you can play around with this too. But yeah, you know, that's what I was thinking for the blind bag one. But like I said, my final build is most likely going to be this crossbow thorns one that I had, wherever that was. This one here. This will probably be my final build this league. I think this is going to be really fun. I think the damage output on this is going to be insane. I am going to be playing on an alt too, and I might try Mage on that, so we'll see. But right now, this is where I'm at with my final build. And then I am on the fence about Wilderness, just because I really like the idea of this build, the ice with crossbow build. But, you know, we're going to try and see. We're going to see what happens. You know, this is all up in the air. You know, I might change my mind, you know, halfway through leagues and see what's going on. So that's really all I had for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what your builds are going to be in the comments below. You know, if you guys are thinking of anything crazy, you know, mine are kind of vanilla. You know, I'm not really, you know, super theory crafting here. I'm just kind of trying to make builds that I think are going to be fun. So if you guys have anything crazy that you've cooked up, you know, leave the link in the comments and I'll take a look at it, you know, on stream or on a video, and, you know, we can talk about it. So thank you again for watching. I will see you again tomorrow, and have a great day.